Salute to all the Patreon members. I want to thank you guys for your support. It really means a lot to me. If you guys can do me a favor, please check out the links in the description box below. Like, subscribe, share this video. Salute to all the new viewers, all the subscribers, anybody who supported me along the way, along this journey. It's been about 7 years. A lot of videos are hidden, so it seems like I just came out a couple weeks ago or a month ago. Now I've been doing this 7 years, right? So there's 7 years worth of content, not only on this platform, but on Patreon page. So check out the Patreon page. Before I get into today's topic, I just want to give an update on a few things, man. Like after this live stream, which I didn't know if I wanted to do this stream or not. I'll just see how it goes and decipher whether I want to keep this up or not. But you know, after this live stream, I bought like a sauna suit. I've been working out, pretty hard past couple of months. Just ordered a jump rope from Cross Rope. I don't know if you guys know about Cross Rope. They have like weighted jump ropes. Jump rope, like if you want to lose weight or get toned or fit, I just want to shed a few pounds. Like I'm not fat, but not chubby. But we all could tone up. Man, I remember I was in Thailand. I had really, really bad eczema. For those that don't know, my eczema was psoriasis. It was severe. I'm talking about like when you Google the like eczema and psoriasis on Google Images. You know how when you Google something, you see the worst pictures on Google. Mine was the worst. Mine was like all in my scalp, on my face, on my eyelids, and in between my fingers, behind my ears, on my shoulder, my neck. Hell, at one point in time, it was on my groin, all over my groin, right? I thought I had something. I couldn't even walk. It was that bad. And so I went to the clinic. They was like, no, you don't have anything. And I was like, damn, I spent all this money. So one of the things that helped me with, getting rid of eczema, psoriasis, number one, the main thing that helped me was converting over to a carnivorous diet and also a method of bouncing. Pause. Bouncing is, jumping rope or jumping on a trampoline. So when I saw this was before I got on a carnivorous diet, but I learned about the lymphatic fluid system, your lymph nodes and your lymph inside your body and how it like tries to get rid of toxins. It's like a passageway inside the body that like it gets rid of toxins and the ways it was explained when I read on the internet was it gets backed up. So in order to flush out the lymphatic fluid system, is build a sweat, do cardio, and the method of cardio I chose in Thailand was jumping rope. So I would jump rope, like 30 minutes a day, and eventually, I got rid of all the eczema and psoriasis without changing my diet, which now I changed my diet. I don't have to do those things, but it's just I want to do those things. I want to be active. But in the process of jumping rope back then, I would jump rope outside. Thailand's hot as hell. So, man, I lost. I remember one time, this was when I was going to university, and one of the professors, she's a Thai woman. She said it just like this. She was like, oh my gosh, like you lost so many weights. That's what she said. Basically trying to say in English, like you lost a lot of weight. And I was like, oh yeah, thank you. I've been, exercising. And I was like, when she left, I'm like, damn, did I really lose that much weight? Because I didn't really change the portion size of my food. So when I went back home, I got on the scale. That thing said 185 pounds. Right. So you got to be careful with jumping rope. Like you can lose a lot of weight jumping rope. So I just wanted to share that real quick, give you guys an update of what I've been going through. Um, Now I could get back into jumping rope because in Thailand, the ropes I would buy over there, they would always snap, right? And with cross rope, it's more expensive, but they have these locks and they have different ropes with these kind of lock and key type situation to the handle where I don't think it'll snap. Like, and then they sell half pound, 1 pound, 5 pound ropes, right, to strengthen your core. So I'm excited for that. Should be in the mail by this Monday. And man, I can't wait to get back into the white V-necks, the fitted white V-necks, black V-neck t-shirts. I'm ready to, and it's, the winter season. So I'm ready for that. But anyways, let's get into it. I want to talk about uh the balloon pop dating show that we've been seeing online on the internet. And I'm not here to judge, it's a form of entertainment. So, it was meant to entertain the public, right? Everybody has the right to, if you're in a relationship with somebody, you're not married, you have the right to um stay with that person, break up with that person, voice your opinion. If somebody approaches you, you have the right to reject somebody. If you're like, hey, I don't see a future with you. You have the right to, go on and get married. I think that marriage vows, and I know this is kind of off topic. The only thing that I disagree with today, I think marriage vows should be held up and taken more seriously in the court of law, especially on women's parts. You know, irreconcilable differences. I don't think that should be a reason to get a divorce anymore. That's just me. Um, I think your vows should be held up in court and taken very seriously than what it is. But besides that, when you're single, you're not married, you have the right to stay with somebody, separate yourself from somebody if they're not right for you, right? Especially if you're out here making sound decisions. Now, as far as a dating show, a balloon pop dating show, I feel like, hey, man, you have the right to pop your balloon or keep your balloon if you feel like it. You have the right to be on the show. It's a form of entertainment. And when things kind of go left and, somebody says something that goes viral or you have a moment, then it is what it is. It's entertainment. Some people, they do extra, they act extra when the camera's on and when they know it's going to be on social media or YouTube. Hey, it is what it is. People's feelings get hurt. And you have one guy who, when women were popping his balloon or popping their balloons because they didn't like him, they said certain things about him. He said certain things about them. But the person who kind of went down for it, and I don't know if he really lost his job or not, but seemed like it was the man who had to take the brunt of all the criticism and not the women. Like he was criticizing the women as hard as they were criticizing him, right? And one woman ended up keeping her balloon, and I don't know where that went, but it was rumored that he lost his job because of that show. And I don't think he was cursing at all. He just like, you ain't my type either because yada yada yada. And they didn't really like what they had to say about him. So, you didn't have, it was alleged that there was a bunch of phone calls going to his place of business. I believe he was a plumber. And it's like, where was that outrage and that outcry and the outpour of women calling these other women's jobs, to kind of get them removed from their position of the things that they said about him, right? But they'll do that to the man. It's very vicious out here. But I want y'all to pay attention. I don't want to make this video too long. Women, they show up on the show, and sometimes guys, they're holding their balloons, right? Sometimes it's a panel full of guys trying to choose up on a woman that comes from behind the curtain. But you notice that the difference between, like, let's say you have a show where a bunch of women pop their balloons. Women, I noticed that when a man comes from behind the curtain versus when a woman comes from behind the curtain, men will kind of tend to hold on to their balloons, right? When a woman comes from behind the curtain, you might have one or two balloon pops here and there, but there have been some women who were, even when they were kind of, you know, face was kind of strong, I'll say, some of the guys, a lot of the guys, they'll still keep their balloons, right? But women, there's some guys that'll come from behind the count or the curtain, and women they'll keep their balloons, but the women who like pop their balloons, it's like they make a judgment off of how the guy looks, right? And then it's like half or all the women will pop their balloons versus a guy that, men, they don't really start popping their balloons until the women start talking. You see what I'm saying? When the woman starts talking, that's when men start popping their balloons. Like, hey, man, her mind ain't right. But when women pop their balloons, it's like the moment the man comes from behind the curtain, it's like, brah! I remember Lil Duval, he had a joke. He was like, man, like they popped their balloons so fast, it sounded like a Glock switch went off in that room. And it was hilarious, right? But it's like when you kind of view this show and look at the dating market now and see where we're at in society, it's like I feel you have the right to, like I said earlier, to not want to get into a relationship with somebody if you feel like they're not your type. You have the right to reject somebody if you feel like, hey, this ain't working out. Or when somebody starts talking, you have the right to say, nah, it's just not for me. But I feel like a lot of people, they get on these shows because they're hurt, they're confused, right? Their emotions is telling them one thing, society is telling them one thing. They want something totally different. They say they want this and they want that, but then, it's like, I feel like, especially for the women, they walk around. It's almost as if they walk around with social media in their head, and they think that, there's an audience of women watching their every move, expecting them to say what it is that they want them to say, or act how they want them to act, or move how they want them to move, right? And some of it is your own personal preference as well. But I feel like a lot of people, a lot of hurt people get on this platform to kind of show their ass a little bit, right? And that's where we are in society. And look how many episodes you can put out, because when I excuse me, the host, I believe her name is Arlette Amuli. I don't know if she's American, right? With a last, I don't know if that's her real name. Um, I don't know if that's her. I'm assuming that she might not even be American, right? I don't know how many videos she has. The oldest one is from 5 years ago, but it's not the actually, no, she started the balloon popping series 10 months ago. She started a channel 5 years ago, but the balloon popping series she started about a year ago. And there's been a lot of episodes since then. A lot of people mimicking, you know, the same style show. You have 20 versus 1 and stuff like that. Was a little bit more ratchet. I would say this one is a little bit more classy, but you can kind of keep on producing this type of content for years to come because it's like you could just pull so many single people off the street. At one point in time, especially when I was a kid, black adults, you didn't really see them single, right? Um, a lot of people were married, and over the years, the marriage rates and the divorce rate had gone up, the marriage rates has gone down, and it's like we're living in a world full of singles. That's why they're bringing in so many immigrants from different countries, right? Because when you're single, especially for men, it's like, hey, I don't why waste half my income on a house, right? When I don't have a family or I lost my house in a divorce. I don't want to get, and they might not even be able to afford a home, right? The home went to the woman. And then you got women who they want a house and they're single. They don't have a family, they want a house, right? And it's kind of like, what kind of man do you think is gonna, so it's almost as if they want to move a man in. And 9 times out of 10, a woman with a house moving a man in, more than likely you're not moving in anybody that's that productive. But that's neither here nor there. That's just my opinion. I feel like now you have a world full of singles, right? And a lot of people are kind of projecting the insecurities on these platforms, right? Um, Men, we could say one thing, but women, they have the right to, it's free will. You have the right to do that. It's nothing illegal. Like even earlier when I was talking about women, single, no family, purchasing homes, it's like, hey man, you have the right to do whatever it is that you want to do, right? If you feel like that's the best decision for you, and you're making good sound judgments, then it is what it is, but at the same time, a lot of people who it's like they do what they want to do, they still bring, why are you bringing frustration to the internet, whether it be through a timeline post or a video or a TikTok video or an Instagram story, right, or a tweet, right? You made the decisions that you wanted to make. You made those choices, right? You were cool with those choices. You were cool with those choices that you made, right? You didn't let a man stop you. And then some women, it's like, you know, um, some women, it's at the same time, you know, they'll say, okay, that's how things used to be. And this is the way things are now, right? Regardless if it kind of seems a little off-putting. It seems a lot, real masculine now. I can't tell you how many times like I've actually been in relationships with women and I felt like I was with a man. And it's kind of like, damn, like I don't, and maybe I'm old school because I'm of a certain age, but it's like, damn, like at one point in time, women were proud to do these things, do certain things, or act a certain way, and it didn't come across as them looking weak. Like now, femininity is almost looked upon as weak to women. Why would I be feminine for a man, especially a black man? That's weak to me, right? That's how I've heard women say that, like, "Oh, I look weak," and I'm just like, man, like I don't, baby girl, I can't get from point A to point Z if, man, we can't even get to point B because of how your mind is shaped. But hey, you can do what it is that you want to do because it's not illegal. It's not a crime to do what it is that you're doing. But uh, with this balloon popping show, getting back to that, a lot of people kind of project their hurt and insecurities and things of that nature on this show. Or maybe I'm reading it wrong. Who knows? When I see a lot of guys coming from behind the curtain and it's like all the women pop their balloon, it's kind of like, damn, did you go there to kind of look for a guy, or did you go there because like, hey, I don't have nothing to do, I got paid or whatever, or did you go there because like, to get your shit off? You see what I'm saying? Um, some women are like that. Like if they've been, if the guy that they like ends up going somewhere else, they might end up going to a public place full of singles, and it's just like, hey man, I don't care who it is. I'm gonna reject everybody, or I'll get on this date to reject the person that's taking me out, that's treating me right, or that I was having conversations with that kind of went out of the way and changed some things around on their schedule to see where things would go. When your intentions is kind of like the balloon popping show, it's just, and let me just get my shit off. Let me feel better about this. And I could be wrong. Some women, they just don't like the person that's come around the curtain. But it is a double standard, and the reason, the things that they say about somebody, as far as now, I pop my balloon because I remember one lady. This so it was a guys full of balloons, right? And this one woman was talking, and the way she was talking, a lot of guys didn't like how she was carrying herself. So they were popping the balloons, and she was going down the line like, okay, why'd you pop your balloon? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And one guy, he was saying, a couple guys, they popped their balloons because she was like, eventually I want to move into to the countryside and I want to get away from the city and I want to do this, that in the country. And guys were like, man, what the hell? So they popped their balloons. And she went to one guy and was like, hey, why did you pop your balloon? It's like, hey, I grew up in the city. I'm more of a city guy, just moving out to the country. Just, it doesn't seem like my thing. So the woman who's the host, she's kind of a kind instigator. She said, okay, so do you see him as your type? She's like, no. And she's like, why? And she's like, well, he looks gay. And, the host, the woman was like, oh my God. Like, then the guy was like, what? And then the other guys on the panel were like, whoa, like, because that's kind of, attacking a man's sexuality, even if he is gay, but, especially if he's a heterosexual man and he's not gay, attacking a man's sexuality, his look, uh, especially a black man's sexuality, it's like, that's been um, a topic of arguments and discussions out in public and on social media for a very long time. The emasculation of men, especially black men. It's kind of like, really, you went there? That's almost like, um, there's certain things like if you bring up out in public, especially women's weight, they'll take it there with you. Like, if you make that a topic of discussion, or black women's hair, right? Or, if you have a preference, if an epidermis preference, like you just like, hey, my, like me personally, my type is more like I like dark skinned women with big titties. That's just my thing, right? Dark skinned women who are top heavy. That is my preference, right? It doesn't mean that all the women I've ever dated were that, but saying that my preference is, it's like it's not. It's almost like me saying that out in public. That's praise, right? But if a man, and I realize like my preference is not everybody else's preference. Like there are guys who like, oh, I prefer light skinned women, or I prefer other races of women. If a guy says I prefer black women, but this type of tone, I love light skinned women. Now it's like they're on an attack. You're a colorist, and it's like, but me saying that, I'm not looked at as a colorist for saying that. It's just right. So when you take it there with certain people, and she took it there, it's kind of like, I think all the guys ended up popping their balloons for that. And it's like, it is entertaining, right? That doesn't represent everybody. Uh, in a way, it's kind of like, men, like we've seen worse, right? We've heard worse. We've been rejected by women who had worse attitudes and said worse things about us, right? But I noticed that on these shows, when I'm glancing at it, women, they seem to be real nitpicky on looks, right? When it's assumed that, hey, men, they judge women on looks. But a lot of guys who are on these panels with balloons, and the woman comes behind the curtain, they might not be, they might not be, they're not the woman. Everybody who's coming behind these curtains, they're not like Saweetie from the Bay Area, right? You have women that are, they kind of strong looking, and a lot of guys, they just wait it out until they hear what it is that she says, how, what her mindset is like. Then they start popping their balloons, right? I think one time a woman, she got on there, I think she said she was a nurse. I think all the guys popped their balloons, right? Right? The stigma behind nurses out there. And to a certain degree, it is true. I've dated a couple nurses, right? But they were ratchet as hell. they were ratchet as hell. But um my opinion, final thoughts. I don't want to drag this any longer. My thoughts is I think it's a reflection on where we are in society. You know, um, some of the things, and a lot of women, you have the right to pop your balloons and let somebody down nicely. But man, we know the extreme version of this. When we go out into the streets, uh, we've had women let us down nicely. We've had women like, the way they let us down was egregious, right? But now you see how the pendulum has swung. Women, it's like, man, if you don't look a certain way, I'm gonna pop my balloon because a lot of women, they want to show you off on social media, and when you put your picture of your dude or you together on social media, and women say a certain thing, right? Or they feel a certain way, or your family feels a certain way, then that kind of sways their decision making. And a lot of these women, they walk with their aunties, their mother, women on social media, and what they think inside their mind. They think it's like they act like there's a camera in front of them 24/7, right? And they put on this game and this childish act all the time, right? Some. And guys do the same thing too. There's a lot of guys who get on this show that are ridiculous. They look corny. And like there was this one episode, this dude, he showed up, he had a brimless hat on, like all this designer chains, rings, watches, bust down, this, that. And there was like a few balloon pops, and the cutest woman on the line was like, "Hey, look, you just a little bit too flashy for me. It just comes across as corny and tacky." And I would agree with that. I like, even, but that's just from my perspective. I'm not looking at dudes like that. But I've always thought like over the top jewelry and gaudy jewelry, it just looks corny and tacky to me. With the designer from head to toe, the plaid, it looks corny and tacky. So there's some women who reject people, and it's like I can give them that. But there's some, it's like, man, the moment this dude walks around the corner, I mean, his leg ain't even halfway around the curtain yet. It's like, brah, right? So, but I like now it's like I've never seen this many singles before in life. When I was a kid, an adult, it was like you something like the everybody would get on your ass back in the 90s if you was a man or a woman of a certain age and you had nobody, right? I remember there was this dude, he had halitosis, right? I'm pretty sure he could have fixed that going to the dentist, but this dude, he was like a workout, like a fitness trainer for the San Antonio Spurs, right? In shape, not a bad looking guy, volunteered with the youth and helped out. Like he was, volunteer, like he was like a youth pastor, right? He had no kids of his own, no girl, nothing, no fiance, nothing. And it was a black man. I'm like, why doesn't this dude have a woman? Right. And but that somebody like him, that was rare, right? Especially back then. I felt like that was rare. It wasn't that many guys that you saw back then who didn't have somebody, even like, people that were ashy, dusty. They had somebody back then, right? But now you'll see people that pause, guys that they're not bad looking, right? Women that look good and they single, right? So I think that this show, even though we have criticisms about this show, it's just a reflection of the sign of the times. That's it, right? So that's my thoughts on the balloon pop dating show. At times, I'm like, hey man, look, you have the right to keep your balloon or not. But on the flip side of that, I think a lot of it is just projection, right? Some of it is like I'm coming here to show show my ass, right? It's also a reflection of the time. Look at Woody. Woody was on there, and man, a lot of women were there for Woody, Lil Woody, right? Uh, I thought that was interesting, but it is what it is, right? So let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. What am I right on? What am I wrong about? Right? Am I totally off? What is your opinions on these balloon pop dating shows? Because dating shows have always been a thing. I remember me as a kid watching MTV, VH1, Eliminate, and they've always had dating shows. Some of them, they were actors and actresses, but this seems a little bit more real. You know, these don't come across as actors and actresses for a dating show at all, right? Uh, because you see guys back then and women back then on other shows, all the other television shows, uh, back then. So I'm like, yeah, they're actors and actresses. It was entertaining. But this, it just, I don't think they're pulling actors, inspiring actors and actresses off the street. I don't think it's a script. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I may or may not keep this up. You guys take care. Peace.